This is Future Talk.
Future Talk.
Future Talk with Omnial Saleh and Hani Balkis.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Hope you're all having a fantastic afternoon. You're listening to Future Talk right here on Pulse 95. This is the one and only place where we give you a quick roundup of everything that you need to know about what's happening in the tech world, in the UAE, and all around the world. Man, do we have a packed show in store for everyone today. Starting off with a couple of warnings if you're living right here in the UAE and you tend to use online shopping quite frequently, because experts have been warning about frauds becoming a lot more popular using known and unknown links. How can you find out if a certain website is legitimate? We're going to be sharing all those details in just a few moments.
Yes, and if you thought Apple Pay was making you go broke, Apple does have a new way of buying things in real life. Apple has announced a way to buy stuff by tapping iPhones together. And what could that mean for the way we use payment systems? We have a lot to talk about when it does come to that.
Yes, indeed. Coming up on today's show, we have a very exciting gadget to talk about and a very exciting founder to have him tell us more about it. We're talking all about U-light. It's a gadget that has actually been becoming a reason why energy poverty has actually coming to an end in Nigeria and many third world countries. We're going to be talking all about how one type of light, one kerosene lamp, has actually been providing many families in Nigeria and different parts around the world with a reliable source of electricity. How does this lamp work and how much energy can it provide within a single charge? We are going to be speaking to Omar Ghanem, who's actually the co-founder of U-light, a startup that was born and bred right here in the heart of Sharjah.
Yes, and ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Safer Internet Day 2022 and how Meta, believe it or not, is, and has launched the My Digital World website. We're going to be telling you guys what that website is all about and why Meta, or better known as Facebook, is doing to make our internet much safer. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about everything in the world of tech today, and we have a lot of Bigger Love, and that's by John Legend.
Daily digital news. Bits and bytes connect our world.
Ladies and gentlemen, the UAE has announced a warning for internet users across the nation. And the warning does state to not click on any unknown links, and everyone is vulnerable to hacking. Now, we do know that if someone does hack into your computer, they can get access to your private data, and that would be via emails and social media, and they could extort you, threaten you, and even blackmail you. Now, we are talking about how a legal expert in the capital of the UAE, Abu Dhabi, has been sending out this warning for people across the nation.
Yes, indeed. Now, to begin this conversation, I actually want to talk about two scenarios that have been the most popular ways of scam these past week, let's say. One of them has been, the most recent one that I've actually come across was one by Emirates Post. So a lot of people who are aiming to sell used furniture, even buy something from a person, that they may not know personally, or a big company, would actually send them a link by Emirates Post. It may seem legitimate, but if you actually take a minute to look at the website, there are spelling mistakes, there are grammatical mistakes, which is not something that you'd expect from a company as big as Emirates Post. And when, they open up the link and start entering their details, they're surprised to find out that it is all a scam. And the minute they enter their credit card details, big amounts are actually being deducted from their accounts, and, they're basically facing fraud. That has been one of the most prominent ones, and a lot of actually cybersecurity experts have been warning against any link that assumes to be Emirates Post for you not to go ahead and enter your details. Another link that has actually been very popular has been over the platform Instagram. A lot of unknown accounts or even known accounts have been sending the message, "Oh, I've spent 3 hours or 2 hours doing this for you. Check out the link." People click the link and then they're faced with even more forms of fraud.
Yes, and, when we're talking about random links being opened, I have, witnessed a couple of scams across the internet. And a couple of days ago, actually, if we can go even to be exact, last week, I was searching the internet and I did click on a link. And it was a link that I normally do frequent. And all of a sudden, I have my headphones on and I'm hearing sirens in the background.
No way.
Yes, and the website that is prompted to me is Dubai E-Police. And they made my web browser go into full screen mode. And it said, hey, you have just accessed an illegal website. Dubai police is on their way right now to handcuff you. All you have to do is verify that you are not doing anything wrong, and you verify it by putting your Emirates ID, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, my God.
Obviously, I knew this was a scam because...
They wouldn't ask you for
they
all
wouldn't
this.
They wouldn't ask you if they know who I am. They don't need my Emirates ID to verify. And, I Alt F4'd out of that really quick, scanned my computer multiple times. Thankfully, I didn't get any malware. But again, that just goes to show that I am pretty experienced in the world of hacking, and I still, was victim, per se, to a spam website, to a pop-up. Now, when we're talking about public Wi-Fi, ladies and gentlemen, it has been reiterated tons of times that, when you go onto a public Wi-Fi, be wary of what type of Wi-Fi you are signing into, because if that person is spoofing a Wi-Fi name, for example, if we go to the mall, any type of mall, we'll always see it's Salat or Do Wi-Fi, free of service. All you have to do is sign in, put your phone number, they'll send you an OTP, blah, 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 blah. You're in, free Wi-Fi, amazing, great. But what people do, what scammers do, is that they will spoof that Wi-Fi, and then they can see your traffic, your internet traffic, and thus they can see what type of information you type on websites. So if you're trying to log in to, let's say, Instagram.com through the web browser, for example, they will see that your password is I love cake 123. So again, ladies and gentlemen, you need to be wary of what type of Wi-Fi you're signing into as well, not just the links that you are clicking on.
Absolutely. And when it comes to links and websites, there are many, there are many signs that you can be aware of so that you can avoid falling or becoming a victim of such fraud. So one of them is spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes, especially when we're talking about websites for companies, Emirates Post, even government entities. You're not going to find a grammatical mistake or a spelling mistake. You're not going to find a lack of a space between two words if this was actually a legitimate website. Another easy way to find out is through the URL, so the web address itself. Is it actually the official web address of that website itself? And it takes you a quick Google search to find out, let's say, the official website of Sharjah government, Sharjah police, Rafid, you name it. So you don't have to, the minute you see a big name, police or whatever the website is, actually believe that it is the company that they are assuming to be. Last but not least, make sure that when you, if God forbid, fall a victim for such fraud, that you immediately log out of the website and go ahead and inform any police service that you know of. There are so many e-crime reporting services online that you can simply phone them up and they'll help you do all the necessary precautions so that you can avoid further damage.
Yes, and if you do fall victim to blackmail or threatening or being threatened online, there was a very well-known scenario or story per se that happened, a couple of years ago, how a man hacked into a Snapchat of a girl, and, he threatened to release her pictures, her family's pictures, because in Snapchat, you have a section called memories that are not saved to the device, but saved on the cloud of Snapchat. And he was threatening to release those if he was not paid a hefty sum. It was basically, ransomware. And, this woman, she went and to Dubai police, to the police right here in the UAE. And she said, 1, 2, 3 is happening to me. And they got that guy all the way from Iraq. And they I'm sure. They brought him to the UAE, and he was held accountable. He was fined, and he was then imprisoned. So again, not only are you safe jurisdictionally here in the UAE, but anywhere else in the world. All you have to do is report it, and the UAE police will save you, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know your guys' thoughts, 4215. But we are never, ever going back to clicking unwanted links.
Daily digital news. Bits and bytes connect our world.
So Apple Pay tends to be a big issue for a lot of people who love to spend things online. We've seen endless memes of people saying, we use Apple Pay as if Apple is paying for our own products and our own things that we're buying. But now Apple is planning to drain our pockets even more because they've recently announced that they're going to be launching a brand new way to buy stuff by simply tapping iPhones together.
Yes, and I get very jealous of Android users. And when I'm talking about Android users, I'm talking about our very own Michaela Atiyah. and how he is an Android user and he doesn't have to face the problem of having Apple Pay. Now, when we have Apple Pay, some of us like to think it's monopoly money, and we use it and we tap it and we think, our money is unlimited, but that is not the case. And if you thought Apple Pay made you spend in a very, unwanted amount, Apple has announced a new way to buy stuff, and that is by tapping iPhones together. Now, Apple did announce on Tuesday that it will release a new tap to pay feature for the iPhone that will allow people to buy goods from merchants in the United States, and that would be done by tapping their phones together. It does also work with contactless credit cards. Now, one thing that I could think about when we're talking about tapping iPhones together is paying people back or splitting a bill. Let's say I'm out with Omni and Mikey, and, I'm like, hey, instead of us, splitting the bill by 3, let me just pay, and you guys, tap my iPhones for X amount of money. We need to go really quick. And that would make it much, much easier to pay people, and we do know that Apple has its own credit card system as well. So that would make it even go in full circle. And when we talk about Apple, the number one thing we do talk about is its ecosystem.
Yes, indeed. And the main driver in this equation is definitely the NFC chip. So this is going to be how people will be able to tap different iPhones to pay back other people, or even to just pay back merchants in general. So the iPhone's NFC chip will actually accept Apple Pay, Visa, MasterCard, and many other providers. But this is for now going to be only limited to the US. In the next couple of months, we should expect it to be spreading worldwide. So the tap to pay is actually the big tech company's latest financial services innovation. I've actually come across it with different smartphone manufacturers, so I don't believe Apple is actually the first one to create something like this. However, we do know that things go viral whenever Apple goes ahead and implements them onto their own devices.
Yes, we do know that Apple kind of, vultures any type of new innovation, and they use it and apply it to their own products, and it does work very well because obviously everyone likes that premium feel that Apple does release. Now, Apple did say the feature would be accessed through third-party apps, which will be released later this year. And other payment companies and app developers will be able to develop apps that do access the tap to pay. I'm really excited to see how it will be implemented right here in the UAE, as we do have some features that Apple does provide when it does come to the banking system. Not available right here in the UAE, but I do hope it does come soon. 4215, we are taking a short break, but when we come back, what do we got for them, Mumnia?
We're talking about a very interesting gadget that has actually been helping lots of people in third world countries get access to reliable electricity. Keep Pulse 95 locked to find out more about it.
This is Future Talk. Future Talk.
Future Talk with Omni Al Saleh and Hani Balkis.
I actually came across some shocking statistics today, and I thought I'd share them with everyone. Maybe it would actually help us count our blessings one more time today. So 1.2 billion lives end after sunset. If we take a second to think about that, it actually means 1 in 6 people around the world lack access to reliable electricity and access to light. And little do we think about how much do we use light in our very own lives, whether it is to be able to do our business, go to school, study, you name it. So a pair of students actually from the American University of Sharjah came up with this idea of creating a gadget that would help give many families across the world a reliable source of electricity. It is named U-light, and today we're actually going to be having a conversation with the co-founder of U-light, Omar Ghanem, which was actually, or one of the people behind this amazing product. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show, brother. Now let's kickstart off this conversation by asking you, what are the different features of the light and what makes it different from other type of technologies?
Sure, that's a really good question. So the issue with the kind of the target audience that we're looking at is, if you look at the solutions that they have right now in the market, none of them actually get the job done, right? So if you're talking about solar power, everyone agrees that it's innovation, it's renewable energy, it's the future, but the problem is you can't really implement it in a village on a hut in a way that is reliable, in a way that it's sustainable, in a way that allows them to kind of actually live their lives, right? Because it's either too expensive or it's just too much to kind of continue maintaining. Most of the time, I don't want to give you a stat, but like 90% of the time, you could say almost all the projects that are like solar that are based in Africa end up being abandoned by the government because they just don't want to kind of keep maintaining it because it's just too costly for them, or they the solar panels get robbed off your ceiling, like someone steals it and cuts the wires and things like that, right? So the idea was to kind of take people a step back, really, because our technology is technically, it's mechanical energy conversion, which is not really like rocket science. It's not new. It's actually something ancient. But the idea was to take people to, level 0 before taking them to level 1 and 2 and 3. So everyone's kind of like, everyone really loves the idea of like, Africa's going to leapfrog Europe, Africa's going to the future, blah, blah, blah. But like they forget that Africa doesn't really have, reliable electricity. Let's start there. And how do we start there right now was kind of how ULight was born. The idea was basically to use your own movement, and that's why we kind of called it ULight, because you technically power it yourself. We use your movement to generate energy, which is then stored in a battery, which you can then use as a source of electricity.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
So we kind of looked at, reinventing the wheel per se, starting from back down and going back up.
I wanted to ask more about how does it actually function. So you've mentioned how we are actually involved in the process of getting ULight to function. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. So I mean, the idea is that and you could be anyone. You could be a kid, you could be a grandparent, you could be anyone, because it's super easy to use. You just have to turn a handle, and that movement generates energy, right? Which we then store in a battery. And then you can use it however you want. So we've got, technically, in the model that you're looking at right now that I got to the radio station, you've got a USB cable, which you could literally charge your phone with if you'd like. But the main kind of purpose behind the product is light. So you just have to click a button. It gives you a source of light. Every minute of cranking, so the process of like movement, we call cranking, right? So every minute of cranking gives you up to 10 minutes of light on low brightness and 5 on high. If you fully charge the device, it'll take you about 15 minutes of cranking. Doesn't have to be continuous. You could just charge it throughout the day, like, go do the dishes, come back, continue charging, and so on and so forth. That 15 minutes will give you 2 hours of light. So it's almost like me telling you, hey guys, instead of 24 hours in your life, I'm giving you 26. So think about it that way. It's like you're giving people 2 extra hours in their lives. And again, like once it's discharged, they can just recharge it again. So you can keep getting more and more and more hours. So the idea was really about like taking away all the external factors and just allowing people to generate their own source of energy whenever they'd like, however they'd want to, and just like consume it in a way that just makes sense to them as the end user.
That's amazing, especially because it's such, just like you've mentioned, it's not rocket science. It's something very simple, but it goes so far beyond what the device actually looks like.
Yeah, and it's portable as well, so this can be taken anywhere inside the house or even outside the house, and it doesn't rely just like per se a plug in the wall, just cranking it using that mechanical energy. And you have 2 modes, like you said. You have the low bright and the really bright. So we have a pretty well lit studio, and I was trying it out, and it was pretty bright. So I'm really excited to see about how people in Africa will adapt to this type of technology.
Absolutely, and the impact that it's having. We're going to be taking a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be diving deeper into this topic. If you have any questions for Omar Ghanem, make sure you share them with us at 4215.
This is Future Talk. Future Talk.
Future Talk with Omar Saleh and Hani Balkis.
A life-changing product that has been allowing children around the world to continue their education, providing them with a much more reliable source of electricity. Today, we're talking all about a simple gadget. It's not rocket science, but it definitely has been creating a much bigger impact than what its size holds. Today, we're talking about ULight, and having with us right here in the Pulse 95 studios, the co-founder of U-light, Omar Ghanem, who's definitely been a very exciting speaker to have on the show because he's got lots of statistics in his mind about how much impact this simple gadget has been having on the lives of many. Omar, welcome to the show. Right before the break, we were talking all about the features of this light, what makes it different from any other technology that we've seen out there. And I think what's interesting about it is the fact that you can play around with the brightness and kind of play around with how much electricity that you can save, even with that small mechanical power that you're putting in. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, basically the fact that you could constantly just charge it and then discharge it as you'd like makes it a bit of, kind of a more efficient way, because again, it's not like you've got a solar panel that is just like feeding into a battery and then you don't really use some of the energy and things like that. So there's that level of freedom. But then when we talk about like some of the statistics as well, like the light itself is, I mean, you can't really see it if you're listening in on the radio, but the light itself is 10 times brighter than what normal people would have in Africa if they're getting like a kerosene lamp, right? Because if you get a kerosene, you're just burning it, there's like a tiny little flame. This is like an LED light, so like what we have in our houses, right? So it's 10 times brighter. The fact that you have 2 different brightnesses means you could either use it to like read, you could use it to like actually look at something in more detail, cook, clean, fix something around the house. So there's so many different uses, and like we're constantly doing research with some of the people that we actually implemented the product with, and kind of we keep following up with, because we're trying to understand how are they using the product, how many hours are they using it for, who is using it in the family, are the kids playing around with it, is it the parents, the grandparents. So we're constantly doing these kind of researches. But to be honest, in terms of statistics, the biggest one for me is it's 24% more reliable than solar, because if you're talking about Nigeria specifically, which was the first market we started in, they've got 87 days of rain on average every year. And in those days, you've got, very cloudy skies. Solar panels aren't really very effective. And then you also you have to account for nighttime, where you can't really charge a solar panel, right?
So cost as well.
Exactly, cost as well. And then if you're talking about cost, actually, the even more impressive statistic for me is it's 91% cheaper than kerosene. Because if you're buying kerosene, you're buying it every single month. You end up spending around $60 to $70 every year just on kerosene, right? Which doesn't even give you good enough of light, and it causes leukemia, lung cancer, other diseases. There's like 1 million people statistically that die every single year just off of accidents that happen because of kerosene. Like the lamp falls and the house burns down or something like that, right? So it takes that away and it's cheaper. So we kind of just positioned it in a way where, again, like we never come and claim this is, the future. It's like nanotechnology does it. Like it's always like, listen, this is really simple technology, but it changes people's lives, and that's all that matters. Like we don't have to make it super sexy and exciting. It just it's all about like genuinely just being good enough for the person using it.
Yes, mastering the simplicity of it, because again, just like you said, it's literally level 0, and you're going up in the future, inshallah. But level 0 and mastering it and perfecting it is way better than getting crazy technology that would be per se hard to adapt in these type of countries. Now, I wanted to ask you, Omar, what inspired you to create such a device?
So it actually started off with a competition. We were in American University of Sharjah, and a few of my friends wanted to kind of try their luck at the ULight Prize. It's a competition that happens every single year. You've got to kind of go through different stages. So there's on campus in your university, and then there's regionals. So we competed in Dubai, and then there is the accelerator program in the UK. So we competed there as well. And then the final stage is you're one of the top 6 teams that pitch at the United Nations. And then the winner of that final pitch gets $1 million, right? So we kind of started off because of that. The challenge that year was about using energy to impact the lives of 10 million people. Like no strings attached, you could do whatever you want. So we started digging into the problem and like trying to understand what is the problem of energy, and we realized like access to light changes everything, because if you have light, your kids can continue studying, they don't have to drop out of school. If you have light, you can be more productive, you can make more money. If you have light, you have a better environment in your household. If you have light, it's like it's so much depends on access to light that we take for granted, like Omnia said earlier on. So we started with that, and then we kind of just kept developing it on and on and on. We went through like 40 different prototypes. We were just talking earlier in the break about how this is just like V1. We've got like V2, V3, V4, because again, the idea is it's so simple to integrate that I can put it in like a sewing machine foot pedal, I can put it in a bike foot pedal, I can put it like on your door whenever you open and close it, like I could literally put it anywhere. So that's kind of how it was all born. We didn't, just disclaimer, we didn't win the $1 million, but then we came back here, obviously a lot of exposure, and you reach the UN, blah, blah, blah. That kind of got us access to a lot of things, including the Expo Live program, for example, which was, obviously where we got most of our funding and support in the beginning.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question. How long did the research take to come up with it?
I would say it took a while, because we started like November 2017 in the competition, and the competition only ended in September 2018, and we still weren't done. So after that, like once we came back to Dubai, we spent another like 6 months trying to just optimize the product and co-developing it with different manufacturers and things like that, until we managed to actually release in the later stages of 2019, which was around like December, January of the year after. So it took us pretty much like a year plus, because what we did was we initially started off with like a really high output. We said 1 minute of cranking gives you 40 minutes of light, and we were like super proud of that, right? Everyone loved it. But then we went on the ground and we were like, hey guys, would you buy this? And then the research showed us that like people would rather spend less and get less than spend more and get more, at least in kind of the target audience that we were looking at. So we had to go back, to the
drawing board,
drawing boards, and like actually, do you need this? Do we need an indicator that shows me this? Do we need that? Do we need that? And we kept refining it until we got something that was basically affordable enough, but still does the job, still reliable, and still simple enough for them to use. So it took us anywhere from like a year and a half to like 2 years.
Did the pandemic give you guys any difficulties? I mean, you guys said 2019, 2020 came through. How did you guys, manage through, the peak of COVID-19 pandemic?
100%. It was like silence for a couple of months, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, because the issue with what we're doing is if we're trying to go into these people's homes, like you can't risk that, right?
Yes.
Like I can't send someone into a village where there's no hospital, there's no PCR test, there's no nothing, because it's too much of a risk. So we ended up literally having to ship, like with the people, when we were doing the campaign in Nigeria, we had to ship face masks, we had to ship sanitizers, we had to ship a lot of stuff because it wasn't there on the ground, right? So it was really hard. Obviously manufacturing was a problem because everywhere in the world, like no one was just making anything. There was shortage of supplies. So it was very, very challenging. But I think the fact that we went through that kind of made us, an even stronger team, because we were like, we got through the pandemic early stages, we could do whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of really, it started off really slower than we expected, because we had like 20,000 plus pre-orders in Nigeria. Nigeria, and obviously like COVID also hit the currency in the country, so
economy as well, yeah.
Suddenly the dollar was worth way more naira than it was when we first started off, right? So it slowed us down, but then the snowball effect kind of got us into, you know, next up Kenya, next up Lebanon, next up going from 1,000 people to 10,000 people, and so on and so forth.
And I wanted to actually talk more about the impact that it's been having. So you mentioned you didn't win the $1 million prize, but you definitely won or helped a lot of people win their lives back. Can you talk to us about the impact that this device has had in Nigeria and Kenya?
Sure. So I'll break it down to you like by the unit level. So every unit that we kind of put out is essentially helping, at least on average, again, we're talking statistics, on average it helps at least 3 children continue their education, right?
Wow.
It helps the parents to increase their income up to 2 times. And it helps obviously make the household environment a safer place. Now you just multiply that by like how many units we've actually put out, right? So right now we're looking to end Q1 of 2022 with around 12,000 people, and that's distributed across Nigeria, Kenya, and Lebanon. And we're looking to continue to expand. So the idea is to always like there's always like you started off the the whole conversation with 1.2 billion people. I don't personally believe we're ever going to get to that number quite, at least not in my lifetime. I think hopefully we will, but the idea is to get as close as possible in the sense that we just want to keep 10xing. So we went from 1,000 people to 10,000 people. Now the idea is to go to 100,000 people, and then 1 million people, and so on and so forth, until we reach a level where we're like, okay, cool, like we've helped a lot of people. Let's help someone else carry that on. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. I'm very excited to find out the future plans for this device. We're going to be taking a short break, but when we come back, we're going to discuss that a little bit more. Keep Pulse 95 locked. We'll be right back.
This is Future Talk. Future Talk.
Future Talk with Omar Saleh and Hani Balkis.
Today's show has definitely been a reminder of the blessings that we've got in our lives. And the biggest one of them all for today has definitely been light. We're talking all about being able to provide a reliable source of electricity for people that don't necessarily have that. And while we're talking about the biggest trends in the world of tech, today we're going back all the way to level 0 and building it small to create much bigger impact. Joining us today is the co-founder of U-light, Omar Ghanem, which is basically a very smart gadget that does not require much, but it's definitely having a big impact on the lives of many. Omar, we are very excited about how far you've gone with this device, but we also are looking at what's next for it. Can you talk to us about your future plans for ULight?
Sure, yeah, that's a really good question. Probably one of the hardest that I have to answer as well. So, I mean, in terms of like the tech itself, we were just talking earlier about how this is just like V1, because the tech is so simple. It's very linear, so we could apply it to anything and as big as we want. So, actually, the V2, the second version that we're working on right now, every minute gives you 40 minutes. So every minute of cranking gives you 40 minutes of light. That's something that's going to be huge. Again, it's going to cost a bit more. So we're kind of looking to target maybe middle to low class income specific target audiences. Probably more on like the Lebanon side of things, or like countries that have electricity but maybe are going through shortage problems and things like that. So that's one in terms of plans moving forward. Obviously, the plan is always to kind of keep iterating and kind of learning from the audience and continuing to kind of make the product better. In terms of like impact, I think there's no like, we'll always have milestones, but there's the end target is always going to be super far, and we're always going to aim for it, right? So 1.2 billion people is kind of like that mark that we have over there at the top. We're trying to constantly keep ideally 10x every year. We did 1,000 to 10,000. We were just talking about, okay, can we do 100? Can we do 1 million, and so on and so forth? So that's the plan from that kind of side of things. And then obviously in terms of like just expansion, I think partnerships with, whether it's like companies that want to do something similar to what we've done in terms of like partnerships where they buy the products and we just gift them to people on their behalf as campaigns, for example, or other kind of potential entry points to certain countries where someone actually, because we get that a lot. Like Kenya started because a university in Kenya reached out to us and said, hey, like some of the girls in our schools don't have light at home, could we do something? And then we kind of just worked with an NGO on the ground and made it happen in 2 months. So things like that we're also always looking for, because again, we don't want to limit it. Like I don't want to say we only function in Nigeria, Kenya, and Lebanon. Like wherever we're needed is basically where we're trying to go.
That's amazing.
And again, I was looking at this not only being, helping people who need it, obviously, but a survival kit as well. I mean, if you're going to the desert right here in the UAE, if you're rock climbing, climbing mountains, hiking, and also if someone wants to use it at home. Now every night I read books and I actually have, a side, a night light. And I was looking at this and I was thinking, what, this is even stronger than the night light I have that I have to actually put in the wall. So again, we're looking at how the possibilities could be actually endless. And I wanted to ask you, Omar, how much does one device cost?
So it costs right now $10.
Okay.
Essentially, right? So, I mean, going back to your point where you said like maybe you could use it here in Dubai as well. So we did a buy one gift one campaign I want to say a year and a half ago, where basically people here were able to buy it for double the price, which is $20, which again to us, seems very affordable. To other people, it doesn't. So basically, you'd buy it on behalf of someone in the sense that you get one and they get one as well. So it was like a buy one gift one, similar to Tom's shoes model, where you buy one pair of shoes, they give one away for free. And that kind of actually got us to the first couple of people, the first 100 people, where we managed to kind of give them the unit for free, and then we'd circle back to the person that bought it in Dubai, with a nice email with a picture of the person that actually got the product, and we say like, hey, you've helped like this family, here's your impact. We'll keep kind of tracking them and getting back to you. So I mean, yeah, like it's limitless in terms of like potential, in terms of like things that we could potentially do in the future, and it just has to make sense for our end consumer, right? Like as long as it's helping people get hours back in their life, get access to light, which will change a lot of things in their life. That's all that we really care about.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I love the business model, Omar. I love the device itself. I wish you guys the best of luck, and I'm sure that you said that 1.2 billion people might be very far stretched, but I do believe within time it's doable, it's manageable.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we ignite that spark, hopefully we get more and more people to care about, because part of what we're doing is raising awareness, right? Because it's because of us that people start learning about 1.2 billion, that's a big number, right? And then that's kind of what we're hoping to get, because in time we're going to need governments, we're going to need organizations, we're going to need NGOs, we're going to need a spokesperson, like things like that is what's going to get us into the 1.2 billion.
Absolutely. Amazing. I wanted to ask you, if someone wants to get their hands on one of those devices, where can they get them?
So right now, if you live in the UAE, you could get one on our website, so that's u-light.co. If you want to get one, if you're based in Nigeria, Kenya, Lebanon, that would be directly through our distribution partners or through the NGOs that we work with. So it's just a matter of like where you are geographically.
That's amazing. We wish you the best of luck. It's been such a great honor having you on our show.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. The pleasure was all ours. But ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude Future Talk for today. Hope you guys did enjoy the show. I know I did. Omar was a great speaker, and he gave us all the insight we do need to know when it does come to U-light.
Yes, indeed. Coming up on Pulse 95, we still have lots of shows lined up for you. We're listening to Halftime Show starting out in just a few moments. He's going to give you a quick roundup of everything that is happening in the world of sports, mental health, as well as your physical well-being. It's a show that you don't want to miss, and we'll catch you once again tomorrow. Same time, same place, only here on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of Future Talk, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.